What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Mannun's Minute. And today we're going to be talking about a horned god that's brought up quite a bit in the craft, but not really spoken a lot about as far as details about him. And this is Cernunnos. Cernunnos is probably one of the most recognizable gods in modern paganism, even among people who couldn't tell you very much about him. Show somebody an image of a mysterious man sitting in the forest with enormous stag antlers coming out of his head, surrounded by animals, maybe holding a torque in one hand and a serpent in the other, and somebody's eventually going to say, oh, that's Cernunnos. He has become almost the poster child for the wild masculine side of pagan spirituality. The Lord of the Forest, the Horned One, the god of animals, fertility, nature, wealth, life, death, rebirth, and depending on which website you happen to stumble across at 3 o'clock in the morning, probably your Wi-Fi connection too. But here's where Cernunnos becomes really interesting. We actually know surprisingly little about him. And I don't mean we're missing a couple of chapters of his mythology. I mean, there is no great surviving ancient story about Cernunnos comparable to what we have for Zeus and Odin and Thor or many of the other gods people commonly study. There's no surviving ancient tale explaining where he came from, who his parents were, who he married, what adventures he went on, or exactly what his worshippers believed about him. Much of what we understand about Cernunnos comes from archaeology, inscriptions, and images left behind. That doesn't make him unimportant. If anything, I think it makes him more fascinating because we're basically looking through a cracked window into a religious world that no longer exists. One of our most important pieces of evidence comes from the Pillar of Boatmen, a Gallo-Roman monument dating to the 1st century. It was discovered beneath Notre Dame in Paris, and one section shows the upper portion of a bearded man with stag antlers. Hanging from those antlers are torques, those distinctive neck rings associated with Celtic culture. Above the figure is an inscription identifying him as Cernunnos, and this is extremely important because the name Cernunnos in that precise form is clearly connected with the image there. Think about that for a second. We have this incredibly popular god today, and one of the strongest anchors connecting his name to his appearance is basically an ancient stone saying, yep, this guy. That is not exactly a 50-volume theological library. Other images throughout the ancient Celtic and Gallo-Roman world show similar horned or antlered figures, and scholars commonly group many of these together as what we might call Cernunnos-type imagery. Usually there are certain things that keep appearing. Antlers, obviously, torques, animals, especially deer, sometimes bulls, sometimes a strange serpent with ram-like horns, frequently the figures seated cross-legged. Because the name isn't conveniently carved beside every one of these figures, however, identifying every antlered male image as definitely being Cernunnos becomes an interpretation rather than an absolute certainty. One of the most famous examples is the antlered figure on the Gundestrap cauldron. This magnificent silver vessel shows a cross-legged male figure wearing or displaying a torque, holding a horned serpent and surrounded by animals. You've probably seen this image 1,000 times if you've spent more than 5 minutes around Celtic pagan material. Today it's very commonly identified with Cernunnos, although once again the figure itself does not come with one of those handy little museum name tags saying, hello, my name's Cernunnos. So archaeology gives us clues, but clues still have to be interpreted. Another important image comes from Reims in France. Here we see an antlered bearded Cernunnos seated between Apollo and Mercury. At his feet are a stag and a bull, and from a bag he appears to be pouring either grain or coins. That imagery becomes particularly interesting because suddenly the wild forest god stereotype gets a little more complicated. Wealth, abundance, and prosperity may also have been part of his character. The museum that houses the relief connects the scene with regeneration, fertility, and abundance, all three of them. And this is where I think people sometimes make Cernunnos too simple. We see antlers and immediately think forest. Forest equals animals, animals equal hunting, congratulations, everybody, mystery solved. Shut down the archaeological department and somebody tell Indiana Jones he can go home now. Except ancient gods rarely fit neatly into one little box. The animals surrounding Cernunnos certainly suggest a relationship with the natural world, but the torque is significant too. Torques could represent status, prestige, or wealth. Then we have images involving money or grain. We have serpents, which have carried associations with renewal, fertility, and the earth in many cultures. Add the stag, an animal whose antlers are shed and regrown, and suddenly themes of death and regeneration become very easy to understand. None of this gives us a convenient ancient paragraph saying Cernunnos is the god of these 7 things. What it gives us is symbolism, and symbolism leaves room for interpretation. This also explains why modern pagans have developed such a rich understanding of him. Today, Cernunnos is frequently associated with wilderness, animals, fertility, masculine generative energy, prosperity, life and death, and the endless cycles of nature. Some modern pagans also connect him with the horned god found within forms of modern witchcraft and Wicca. There can certainly be similarities in imagery and symbolism, but we should be careful about saying they were historically one and the same deity. That moves us beyond what the surviving evidence can actually prove. Personally, I feel that Cernunnos is actually just a title, basically, that represents all horned gods, and that's why he doesn't really have a story. I believe that it was just a generalized Cernunnos meant horned god, literally, and you could insert whatever horned god here. It's not a fact. Some people argue against it, but that's my theory. Modern paganism does not suddenly collapse into a flaming pile of robes and incense because somebody admits, we don't know. In fact, I think sometimes those are the 3 smartest words anybody studying ancient religion can use. There's a bad habit within paganism of taking a modern interpretation, repeating it often enough, and eventually presenting it as something our ancient ancestors absolutely believed. Before long, somebody makes a meme about it, another person sticks it on Pinterest, and all of a sudden, there you have it. We now apparently have an ancient Celtic manuscript nobody can actually locate. Cernunnos deserves better than that. The evidence we actually possess is already interesting enough. We have an antlered deity whose imagery survived across multiple ancient artifacts. We find him associated with animals, torques, serpents, abundance, and his peculiar cross-legged posture that makes his images immediately recognizable. We know that at least some people in the ancient Gallo-Roman world knew his name, represented him religiously, and placed him alongside other important divine figures. Exactly what prayers they spoke to him, what experiences they believe they had with him, and what stories they told around their fires have largely disappeared. That silence leaves modern practitioners standing in an unusual position. There's enough surviving material to know Cernunnos wasn't simply invented last Tuesday by somebody selling antler necklaces on Etsy, but not enough to completely reconstruct his ancient religion. So modern relationships with Cernunnos inevitably involve some amount of reconstruction, interpretation, and personal spiritual experience. The important thing is simply knowing where the ancient evidence ends and modern practice begins. And that distinction's kind of important. It allows Cernunnos to remain a living spiritual figure for people today without pretending we possess information that history never gave us. Ancient religion wasn't frozen in time anyway. Gods changed, cultures mixed, symbols developed, and people understood their deities through the world around them. Religion has always been something humans interact with rather than something sitting untouched inside a glass museum case. Maybe that's one reason Cernunnos continues to resonate so strongly with so many. Here's a god whose face survived even though much of his voice did not. We still have the antlers, we still have the animals, we still have the torque, the serpent, the strange seated figure staring back at us across roughly 2,000 years. We just don't have somebody standing beside him explaining what all of it meant. And maybe we don't need to fill every empty space. Sometimes mystery is part of what makes studying these old gods worth doing in the first place. Cernunnos reminds us that ancient pagan religion was enormous, complicated, and full of traditions that time simply did not preserve. What survived gives us glimpses, not complete instruction manuals. So when somebody asks me, who exactly was Cernunnos? Perhaps the best answer isn't that he was simply the Celtic god of the forest, or fertility, or animals, or wealth. He appears to have touched several of those things, but more importantly, Cernunnos is one of those ancient gods standing right on the boundary between what history can tell us and what modern paganism has reconstructed from what remains. Personally, I think that makes the old antlered fellow a hell of a lot more interesting than pretending we already know everything about him.